Every few months, a headline announces another AI company valued at hundreds of billions of dollars. And almost every time, buried somewhere in the fine print, is another headline about record-breaking losses. OpenAI is burning through billions annually. Anthropic is doing the same. Google DeepMind, despite sitting inside one of the most profitable companies on Earth, is spending at a pace that would terrify any traditional board of directors. These are not struggling startups. These are the most celebrated companies in the world right now, and nearly all of them are bleeding cash at a scale that would collapse any conventional business within months. So here is the question that actually matters. They are not losing money by accident. They are losing it on purpose. And what they know that most people do not changes everything. Now let us talk about the actual numbers, because the scale of this spending is unlike anything the corporate world has seen before. Microsoft has committed over $100 billion to AI infrastructure. Google is pouring tens of billions into data centers every single year. Amazon, Meta, and a dozen other players are doing exactly the same. But here is what makes this remarkable. These are not startups gambling on a dream or founders chasing hype. These are the most sophisticated capital allocators on the planet. Companies with decades of financial discipline, armies of analysts, and boards that scrutinize every major decision. And yet, they are all making the same calculated bet, at the same time, at the same extraordinary scale. When that kind of convergence happens, it is never a coincidence. That pattern demands a very serious explanation. To understand why these companies are spending at this scale, you need to understand what they are responding to. The demand for intelligent systems has not grown gradually. It has exploded. Healthcare systems want AI that can read scans and flag diagnoses. Financial institutions want models that can process risk in milliseconds. Logistics networks want systems that can reroute supply chains in real time. Education, media, and government are all moving in the same direction, integrating AI not as an add-on, but as a core operational layer. This is not a technology trend cycling through its hype phase. This is a structural shift in how the world processes information and makes decisions. And the companies building the underlying systems understand one thing with absolute clarity. Whoever owns the foundation owns everything built on top of it. This is precisely why the most forward-thinking AI organizations are deliberately moving away from dependence on any single chip manufacturer or hardware solution. Rather than anchoring their entire infrastructure to one dominant and extraordinarily expensive processor, they are actively exploring custom silicon, alternative accelerators, and purpose-built hardware designed specifically for their workloads. Companies are investing heavily in their own proprietary chips, in partnerships with emerging semiconductor manufacturers, and in software optimizations that squeeze more performance dramatically from less conventional hardware. The strategic logic here is compelling. Over-reliance on a single hardware ecosystem creates dangerous bottlenecks, inflates costs, and hands enormous leverage to a supplier who can dictate both price and availability. Diversifying the hardware foundation of AI infrastructure is not simply a technical preference. It is rapidly becoming a fundamental competitive and geopolitical necessity for any organization serious about maintaining long-term independence in this space. The logic behind this spending is not chaotic. It is a flywheel, and once you see it, the numbers start making sense. Capital investment funds. Infrastructure. Infrastructure enables scale. Scale generates data. Data improves the model. A better model attracts more users. More users generate more data. And the cycle accelerates, compounding dominance with every rotation, while monetization is deliberately pushed into the future. These companies are not ignoring profit. They are sequencing it. Revenue comes after control is established, not before. This is the same logic that built Amazon's dominance through years of intentional losses. The spending is not reckless. It is a calculated land grab where the land is computational power, and the territory being claimed is the future of intelligence itself. Every dollar is a stake in the ground. What makes this race uniquely brutal is not just the scale of spending, but the specific mechanisms driving costs to levels that most competitors simply cannot sustain. Start with compute. High-performance AI accelerator chips, the kind powering frontier model training, now carry price tags ranging from $30,000 to $40,000 per unit. These chips are not sitting on shelves waiting to be purchased. They are back-ordered by months, sometimes years, creating a scarcity that functions as an invisible wall around the industry. If you cannot access the hardware, you cannot train the models. Then there is energy. Modern AI workloads consume electricity at a rate that dwarfs traditional computing infrastructure. And finally, network effects. The platform that reaches critical scale first becomes exponentially harder to displace. Every dollar spent today is not just buying capacity. It is purchasing a competitive moat that will cost competitors years and billions more to cross. Here is the insight that reframes everything you have seen so far. The losses are not a failure of the business model. They are the business model. Early losses are not accidents or growing pains. They are accepted, even engineered, because the goal was never short-term profit. The goal is long-term dominance over the infrastructure that will power the next era of the global economy. These companies are not failing to make money. They are choosing not to, yet. Every dollar lost today is a deliberate investment in a position that, once secured, may never need to be surrendered. And here is the line that changes how you should read everything happening in this industry. This is not a tech race. It is a race to control the intelligence infrastructure. That distinction matters far more than most people have stopped to realize. Think about what that actually means in practice. These companies will not simply sell you a product and move on. They will become the invisible layer underneath nearly every consequential decision made in the modern world. When a hospital determines treatment priorities, when a government allocates resources, when a bank approves or denies a loan, when a supply chain reroutes itself in real time, the intelligence coordinating those outcomes will run on infrastructure owned by a small number of private entities. That is not a vendor relationship. That is something closer to dependency at the civilizational scale. No single company, government, or technology has ever occupied that position before. And the window to claim it is not staying open indefinitely. Every month that passes, the gap between those inside and those outside widens further. This is not an abstract corporate story unfolding somewhere distant from your daily life. The consequences are already arriving for ordinary people in very concrete ways. Jobs that existed 5 years ago are being restructured or quietly eliminated. Roles in writing, accounting, customer service, legal research, and design are being redefined by tools built and controlled by a small number of private companies. Workers are being asked to compete with systems they had no hand in creating and no power to govern. Dependency on these platforms is growing faster than any regulatory framework can meaningfully respond to. Governments are still drafting guidelines while the infrastructure is already embedded. The concentration of power is not a future risk sitting on some distant horizon. It is a present reality, and it is accelerating with every passing quarter. And this race extends far beyond corporate boardrooms. Nations themselves are treating AI infrastructure as a matter of strategic autonomy. The United States has implemented sweeping export controls on advanced chips, specifically targeting NVIDIA's most powerful processors, to prevent rivals from accessing the compute needed to compete. China has responded with its own state-directed investment programs, worth hundreds of billions of yuan. The European Union is crafting regulatory frameworks and funding mandates designed to prevent total dependence on American or Chinese platforms. These are not isolated policy decisions. They are coordinated national strategies built on a single shared understanding. AI infrastructure is the new critical infrastructure. The billions being burned by private companies are not just corporate strategy. They are the opening moves in a contest for technological and economic supremacy playing out at the national level. Step back and look at everything you have just seen through a different lens. AI is not a product category. It is not a feature set or a software upgrade arriving in your next subscription tier. It is infrastructure. The same category of investment as electricity grids, interstate highways, and the internet itself. Those systems were not built to generate immediate returns. They were built to become the foundation on which everything else would run. And the entities that owned them shaped entire economies for generations. That is exactly what is happening right now. The companies spending tens of billions annually are not losing money in any meaningful sense. They are laying roads. They are running power lines. They are drilling pipelines. The difference is that this infrastructure does not move goods or electricity. It moves intelligence. And they intend to own it completely. The billions being burned are not a sign of chaos or irrationality. They are a signal. A signal that the most powerful institutions in the world have already decided what the future looks like and are spending everything they have to be the ones who control it. They are not reacting to the future. They are constructing it, deliberately, expensively, and with extraordinary conviction. The question is not whether this transformation is coming. That decision has already been made, funded, and set in motion. The real question is whether anyone outside these companies will have a meaningful say in how it unfolds, who benefits, who is protected, and who gets left behind. That answer is still being written. This is Behind the Spends, decoding the systems behind spending.